Joe Biden returns from Camp David, and the first thing on his mind is booster shots. While there are some unconfirmed rumors going around that he may get the old 25th. Spoiler alert, it's most likely not going to happen, but we'll talk just a bit about what's going on there. In other news, the propaganda continues for the neocons and the neolibs to try to push us back into war in Afghanistan, so we'll talk just a bit about what's going on with that. The Energy Secretary is pushed to push back against governors who impose anti-mask mandates at schools, and Georgia inches towards a possible takeover of Fulton elections. Plus, we will do a thing that I like and a thing that I hate, and a thing that I like that actually might surprise you. So it is going to be all this and more over on Contemporary. Hey, do you trust the plan yet? I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar, and wow, what a day these last 24 hours have been. My goodness, or if you're on the Instagram side, the last 48 hours, because your gracious host forgot to put the Instagram feed up yesterday, so you haven't seen Contemporary for 2 days. Except you can go to the channel all the time. It's here every day. We don't skip a day here. And if I do have to skip a day, I get somebody to come in and help out. So, yeah, this has been quite the day here. But the good news is the president is back. He can finally address the Afghanistan crisis. He's not going to, but he can. So we're going to talk a bit about that and more. Plus, the booster shot thing, the COVID thing. Another state has put into place its mandatory mask mandates, and they're outcompeting each other. All these blue states right now are outcompeting each other to try and see who can be the most tyrannical. It's kind of entertaining to watch, except for the fact that they're going to put the fucking rifle in your mouth just the same. But we'll go with that, and we'll talk a bit about that as we go along as well. But before we get started, head on over and check out all of my friends who are joining me in the upcoming new project that we will be announcing soon. It is going to be a great time. I'm so happy to come together and do this. I'm so glad we have competent people here who are at easy reach and are increasingly trying to make it at easier reach. That was one of the complaints I had with Jake. And he was a great guy to have on board. He was a good marketer. He came over. He said, that's what I want to do is market you guys. And then he got the job with the RNC, so he wasn't unavailable to do it. And always, I will never say a bad word about Jake, the head of Freedom Scoop. I will never say a single bad word about the guy. I know some of the other guys on the network have. On behalf of the people who are representing them to Jake, I cannot say a bad word about you because, you know, you took a lot of time in the midst of building other businesses at the time and built us something in a community. That's the most important thing that we got off of this was the community, not necessarily the website or, well, the bugs that came with the website, but the actual community, the 6 shows that want to come together and do this again. That's the most important part we took away from this, and I'm so happy that it happened here. Keep an eye out for the new project coming up. Once we get the domain secured, I will release the name, and we'll get a coming soon page coming up for you guys as well. And I'm most impressed by the fact that the girl who wants to help me with the website has made herself available to even have a phone call, which I haven't taken her up yet because I've worked 10 hours for the last 2 days. But regardless, this is, I think, going to be a lot smoother process than Freedom Scoop was. So we've learned from where some of the problems are. We're attempting to fix them, and we are going to give you one of the best news sites we can possibly give you. That's what I want to give to you guys here. All right, let's get into the finance here. Let's get the monitors up and see what you guys are saying, see what you guys are doing. Make sure you guys aren't killing each other on the chat. Hi guys, looks like we got a few people already gathered in, ready to go. Tell a friend, tell 10 friends. Let's get some more people in here. Let's get a good chat going here. Maybe we'll get some lefties over on the Twitch side. Maybe we'll get somebody in here to say, why is Dr. Pepper Man so angry? I guarantee you I'm going to hit that point today. Before we do that, let's get into finance here. The Dow took another pretty decent drop-off yesterday. Now, I mean, we're not seeing last March numbers by any stretch of the imagination, so I mean, don't get worried and don't panic sell off whatever you have in your retirement right now. But I mean, I'd start shuffling if it was me. This is not official financial advice, but you know, I'd start talking to my advisor and say, hey, you know, some of this stuff is looking a little bit weak right now. Is there something we can take out of a high risk category and, you know, put it into something stable? Because yeah, the guy in the executive branch, he doesn't know fucking shit. And I fear that may affect my retirement. Can we do something about this? But, I mean, that's what we're seeing here. And if I know IBD correctly, and I didn't pre-read this article, they're going to come back out of here and try to tell you that this is nothing to worry about. This is just the Fed trying to decide what they're doing with their meeting. Do not be mistaken. A lot of this has to do with what's going on in the White House with the talks of the 25th and Afghanistan and everything else that goes along with that. So a lot of this has to do with that as well. I'm telling you. But it is down 382.59 points, or 1.8%, or 0.08%. 1.8% would be a hell of a lot bigger drop here. Your Bitcoin also actually took a drop yesterday. Let me refresh that, because I don't think I've refreshed that since last night. Wow, it took more of a drop. Your Bitcoin is now at 44,318.80. Grab a little bit while it's still on sale here, because once they start printing the money, which we'll be talking about that later on in the show too, all the way down here. I promised you yesterday we would talk about the debt and the high stakes debt ceiling showdown here. That is all the way to the end of the show, because we've got so much stupid shit coming out of the executive branch up here. But we are going to talk about that as well here today. But yes, as of right now, 44,318.80 is your Bitcoin price. So get a little bit of it. Get 20 bucks worth of it. Get a 0.02% of a Bitcoin if you can. Like, don't put your life savings into it, but get a little bit if you can. This is not official financial advice. Looking in at your scrap prices, looks like copper took another big tumble yesterday. Your bare bright copper wire is down. All your copper components are down. Cast iron is up. Aluminum siding went down, and then of course the clean aluminum copper fin went down as well. But looks like lead went up, catalytic converters went up, hard drives went up, motherboards went down, and your aluminum stayed the same. So that's what we're seeing coming back up out of that. Watch your scrap prices, because that is going to be a big indicator of what's happening in the economy on the personal level rather than the business level. All right, let's see what IBD has to say. Dow Jones Futures extends stock market sell-off as Fed moves to exit. Nvidia de-local Robinhood earnings late, from Ed Carson. Dow Jones Futures fell solidly Thursday morning, along with S&P 500 Futures and NASDAQ Futures, extending Wednesday's late afternoon sell-off as Fed minutes suggested the central bank could start scaling back asset buys this year. Nvidia stock, Cisco, D-Local, Robinhood, and Macy's were among the key earnings movers. The stock market rally closed at session lows on Wednesday. The Federal Reserve was not yet ready to begin formal taper talk last month, according to the Fed minutes from the July meeting, but several policymakers thought the Fed would begin tapering its monthly advertisement. I don't know why the hell they can't do this while I'm still show prepping, because this is the first article I bring up every day. But no, they know enough to wait 25 minutes before they flash that across the screen. More than that, because I pulled that up at 6:44. Some Fed officials worried about inflation remaining hot for longer, in part due to the ongoing bond buying program. The Delta variant was seen as a downside risk for economic growth, but also could extend supply chain woes and thus inflation. The stock market rally gave up ground following the Fed minutes release. Apple fell to just under its 21-day exponential moving average. Apple stock had flashed a couple of entry points from last Thursday to Monday, rebounding from the 21-day line and clearing a short consolidation. Nvidia, Robinhood, Cisco, and D-Local reported earnings after Wednesday's close. Nvidia stock climbed slightly on strong earnings, while rival Advanced Micro Devices initially nudged higher but then retreated. SNPS stock, already in a buy zone, rose to record highs overnight. Cisco and Hood stock fell on guidance. D-Lo stock skyrocketed before the open. Macy's beat views, raised guidance, set a buyback program, reinstated a dividend. Kohl's reported strong results. Macy's stock rose modestly before the open. Kohl's stock fell. Tesla AI Day looms Thursday night. It's not clear what the event will showcase. Tesla's self-driving systems, autopilot, and full self-driving are an attempt to apply a form of AI. Yeah, you wait till that kills a kid, and then you tell me how much the American people and the world people are going to accept that. On Monday, the National Highway Traffic Safety Agency opened a Tesla autopilot probe related to crashes into emergency vehicles on the side of roads. The announcement included language suggesting a tougher approach than previously. Tesla stock rebounded Wednesday, up 3.5% to $688.99. Shares fell Tuesday, but closed just above its 50 and 200-day lines. The new early entry for Tesla stock is $7.30, just above last Friday's intraday high. Tesla stock fell 2% early Thursday as Fed taper talk spooked markets. Tesla and Nvidia stock are on the IBD leaderboard. AMD stock is on the IBD 50. SNPS stock is on the IBD long-term leaders. On the futures, the Dow Futures went down again, you guys. Dow Futures declined 0.8% versus fair value. That's a drop from the motion that we've been seeing on the futures in both directions for the last, 7 months. 0.1% up, 0.2% down, 0.3% up, 0.1% down. You know, that little bit of move, that is a move for the Dow right now on the futures. S&P 500 futures fell 0.75%. NASDAQ 100 futures lost 0.6%. Cisco is a Dow Jones, S&P 500, and NASDAQ component. Crude oil prices and copper futures lost 3% or more. Both sold off Wednesday and have been trending lower. The 10-year Treasury yield fell several basis points. The dollar hit a 2021 high. Bullshit. Unless everybody else in the world is trying to print their way out of debt harder, that's bullshit. Remember, overnight action in Dow Futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading in the next regular stock market session. Let's grab one from Fox Business quick, and then let's get into the Afghanistan news, which is going to be a good portion of the show. Yeah, this is the first non-Afghanistan story I have right here. So all the rest of this, from here to here, is all Afghanistan, from NBC to CNN, and everybody in between. On Fox Business, Dow Jones tumbles 382 points as Fed minutes suggest taper could start this year. From Jonathan Garber, U.S. stock indices closed lower Wednesday as investors digested minutes from the Federal Reserve's latest policy meeting, which suggested the central bank could begin tapering its asset purchases this year. The Dow Jones Industrial Average slid 382 points, or 1.07%, while the S&P 500 Index and the NASDAQ Composite Index declined 1.07% and 0.89% respectively. The selling in the Dow and the S&P 500 pushed both indices lower for the second day. Minutes from the Fed's July meeting showed most participants believed it could be appropriate to start reducing the pace of asset purchases this year. In-Stock's Target Core reported earnings and revenue that exceeded Wall Street estimates as back-to-school shopping bolstered results. The big box retailer, which saw a sharp slowdown in digital sales growth, raised its comparable sales forecast for the second half of the year and announced a new $15 billion share repurchase program. Lowe's Companies Incorporated forecasts full-year revenue above analyst estimates as customers splurged on big-ticket items. Amid slowing demand for do-it-yourself projects, quarterly earnings and revenue were ahead of expectations. Krispy Kreme beat on both the top and bottom lines and said its drive-thru business and new menu items would help cushion the blow from the Delta variant. I still can't believe that Krispy Kreme just became an IPO this year. That boggles my mind, because I've been eating Krispy Kreme since I was 19. That was the first time I had a Krispy Kreme donut. I have been eating Krispy Kreme for almost 20 years. And they're just an IPO this year? That's madness to me. Madness, I say. Nvidia Corp, Cisco Systems, and Robinhood Global Markets are among the companies set to release their quarterly results after Wednesday's closing bell. Elsewhere, T-Mobile said hackers accessed the personal information of more than 40 million former, existing, and prospective customers. So, there are some things that are shaking up the markets right now. We will see where this goes and what happens with that. The NASDAQ Composite, of course, at 14,525.92, S&P 500, 4,427, and the Dow, 34,960.69. We saw at the top of the show. Let's get into Afghanistan news. All right, starting with NBC today. All right, we're at 1947. Let's try to keep this under an hour talking about the Taliban in Afghanistan. I don't think it's going to happen. All right, the Taliban assert rule over Afghanistan. Islamic Emirate faces early challenges. In Kabul and beyond, the challenges facing the militant group in the wake of its rapid takeover of the country were mounting. This is from Yulia Talmazan and Mushtaq Yusufzai. I probably butchered that last name, I'm not going to lie. The Taliban celebrated Independence Day for the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan on Thursday, marking the occasion with a declaration of victory over the United States and a reassertion of their regime as the country settled uneasily into life under the militant group's rule. But in Kabul and beyond, the challenges facing the Taliban in the wake of their rapid takeover were mounting. Thousands continued to defy warnings and beatings to seek evacuation. Via the capital's airport, a small and nascent opposition emerged in the form of protest, and a potential armed rebellion in the country's dire economic situation was coming clearly into view. You know who else had a dire economic situation when they started off as a nation? I'll give you a hint. The majority of you are sitting on its soil. A turnover regime usually brings in some economic hardship. I'm not that worried about that. I'm really not that worried about Afghanistan anyway, but I'm not that worried about that. While questions remained over the exact nature of Afghanistan's next government and the group's claim to moderation, the Taliban's reassertion of the Islamic Emirate, their name for Afghanistan, has nonetheless established a return to the militant group's control over the country in the wake of the U.S. withdrawal, and just weeks before the 20th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks. Fortunately, today we are celebrating the anniversary of independence from Britain, the Taliban said in a statement early Thursday commemorating the 1919 treaty that ended British rule in Afghanistan. We, at the same time, as a result of jihadi resistance, forced another arrogant power of the world, the United States, to fail and retreat from our holy territory of Afghanistan. The U.S. invaded Afghanistan in the wake of the 9/11 attacks, overthrowing the hard-line Taliban regime that had sheltered 9/11 architect and al-Qaeda leader Osama bin Laden. That was propaganda that had nothing to do with Afghanistan. They found him in fucking Pakistan. 2 decades on, the militants are back in control after their lightning takeover, and the U.S. is scrambling for the exits. The Pentagon has said it was working with the Taliban to evacuate Americans and U.S. allies out of Afghanistan. U.S. officials said on Wednesday that 6,000 people have been evacuated to date, with roughly 4,500 Americans still on the ground. President Biden said that if needed, U.S. forces could remain in Afghanistan past his August 31st deadline to get every American out of the country. On Thursday, thousands of Afghans are still risking their lives trying to reach the Kabul airport to leave the country as the Taliban consolidated control. The militants urged anyone who did not have the proper documentation to leave the area and said that 12 people have been killed in and around the airport either by gunfire or in stampedes since they seized control on Sunday, according to Reuters. NBC News has not verified the number of dead. While Kabul itself is relatively calm, NBC News witnessed a protest on the streets of the capital as some Afghans defied the Taliban and rallied in opposition to what many fear will be a return to the group's hardline rule. Video sent to NBC News from the capital showed insurgents in military vehicles on the ground, patrolling the streets with automatic rifles. One video showed a convoy of young Afghans, men and women, walking resolutely along a road with their backpacks and suitcases. It was unclear whether they were heading towards the airport. Elsewhere in the capital, shops and street markets were open on Thursday and busy traffic resumed. A beauty salon, meanwhile, had images of women defaced using spray paint. So, a lot of stuff going on here. We are going to see a ton of propaganda. I'm going to tell you that right off the bat. We're going to see a ton of propaganda in the coming weeks as far as Afghanistan goes. And we're actually going to specifically talk about some of the propaganda toward the end of this segment. Toward the end of talking about Afghanistan, because the neocons and the people who are paying the news agencies want us desperately to be going back into Afghanistan. And they're going to tell you, they're throwing babies over razor wire fences, and the new government is killing people, and there's rare earth minerals we need. We have to be back in Afghanistan. Just you wait. There is, I'm actually putting it 50-50 that we're back in Afghanistan by the end of the year. I can't go any higher in either direction right now just because I know that it is a tremendously unpopular idea on both sides to go back in, with only a core group of neoliberals who will worship at the feet of politicians like Ted Cruz and Dan Crenshaw and Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi. Those are the only ones who are saying that we need to go back in. But going back to Afghanistan is a massively unpopular idea. But it could still happen, because the people who are paying the news media to put out this propaganda still have some say into this and what goes on in the news media and how we can turn the sentiment of the American people who just want to be humanitarian. So I'm waiting to see where this goes. 50-50, we're back there by the end of the year. All right, let's see. Let's talk about the House Plant in Chief. ABC News exclusive. Pressed on whether the U.S.'s exit from Afghanistan could have been handled better, President Biden tells George Stephanopoulos the idea that somehow there's a way to have gotten out without chaos ensuing. I don't know how that happens. Let me kill the music track here and let's go have a listen. Let's throw a chat poll in there now that we see some people in here while we're getting this video set up. Do you like having the music on the background here? I kind of like it, actually. It's a little bit more calming. If there is some sort of dead space, it does take up some of that there. But 0 in the chat if you don't like the music, if you want me to quit it, and 1 in the chat if you want me to keep it going. Meanwhile, let's listen to the House Plant in Chief and George Stephanopoulos.
When you look at what's happened over the last week, was it a failure of intelligence, planning, execution, or judgment?
Look, I don't think it was a failure. Look, it was a simple choice, George. When the Taliban, let me put it another way. When you had the government of Afghanistan, the leader of that government getting in a plane and taking off and going to another country, when you saw the significant collapse of the Afghan troops we had trained, up to 300,000 of them, just leaving their equipment and taking off. That was, that's what happened. That's simply what happened.
But we've all seen the pictures. We've seen those hundreds of people packed into a C-17. We've seen Afghans falling.
That was 4 days ago, 5 days ago.
What did you think when you first saw those pictures?
What I thought was we have to gain control of this. We have to move this more quickly. We have to move in a way in which we can take control of that airport. And we did.
So you don't think this could have been handled, this actually could have been handled better in any way? No mistakes?
No, I don't think it could have been handled in a way that we're going to go back in hindsight and look, but the idea that somehow there's a way to have gotten out without chaos ensuing, I don't know how that happens. I don't know how that happened.
So for you, that was always priced into the decision?
Yes.
All right, and there are some decent points that this fucking idiot makes. And he's got... I hate to say, because I know that there are a lot of Trump backers out there, including somebody whose news coverage I listen to every day, Stick, Sex, and Hammer 666. That's seem to try to tell the world that if we'd just followed the Trump plan, that it would have been all fucking farts and rainbows forever and ever, amen. That they would have the Taliban would have stayed in their corner, let the Afghanistan government flourish, and let all this happen. I don't believe that for a second. But as I've said, I do believe they would have met with some more resistance coming across the country, because what really helped them push their push across the country so quickly, so rapidly, was the fact that they could propagandize to the people of Afghanistan and tell them that, oh, hey, yeah, the American people suck. We're getting them out of here. And the government sucks because they back the American people. But this was a foregone conclusion no matter what. The Taliban was going to do what they could. And yeah, if they couldn't come out and take it with propaganda like they did this time through, they were going to take it at the end of a fucking Kalashnikov. And it didn't help that we left them with Barretts and trucks and Humvees and MRAPs and tanks and drones. It didn't help that they were coming armed to the fucking teeth. If they just had a few Kalashnikovs, they... Once again, I do believe they would have succeeded. They just would have probably taken a few casualties along the way. Instead of coming in and, walking up to the governor. And, I always say, walking up to the governor, hey, President Ghani sucks. You want to join the Taliban? Okay, cool. You want to play bocce ball later? Cool, welcome to the Taliban. But, what's the greater motivator to that? The fact that the government actually fucking sucks, or the fact that the guy who's coming out here and making the offer has got an AK hanging from his fucking chest? So there are a lot of problems that went along with this. Is that an okay volume, you guys? I had to turn the volume down in my ears because the initial was way too loud. So I'm probably hearing this at a different level than you are. Anyway, let's get into this. Let's grab one here from NPR for you guys. Let's see what these guys have to say. A defensive Biden argues there was no exit from Afghanistan without chaos ensuing. This is from Alana Wise. And remember, this is National Progressive Radio. They need your money, I mean our money, comrade, to make sure they can spread those sweet, sweet, soothing communist ideals across the nation. NPR, National Progressive Radio. Let's see what they have to say. President Biden largely reiterated his defense of the Afghanistan withdrawal in an interview with ABC News Wednesday, saying that some chaos was inevitable. He added that the U.S. troops will stay in Afghanistan until all American civilians are out. The interview came days after the Afghan capital fell to the Taliban and thrust the region into the same violent uncertainty that the U.S. had sought to stabilize. That's part of the problem right there, you guys. The idea that somehow that there's a way to have gotten out without chaos ensuing. I don't know how that happens, Biden told ABC News' George Stephanopoulos. The president said it was a simple choice to withdraw U.S. forces, and he faulted the Afghan government and its military for not forcibly defending the capital. Look here, fat! It was a simple choice, Biden said. When you had the government of Afghanistan, the leader of that government, get in a plane and taking off and going to another country. When you saw the significant collapse of the Afghan troops we had trained, up to 300,000 of them, which we determined yesterday was a lie, just leaving their equipment and taking off. That was, the thing. That's what happened. That's simply what happened. And so the question was, at the beginning, and the threshold question was, do we commit to leave within the same time frame we set, or do we extend it to September 1st? Or do we Boy, you have got a lot of fucking brass ones, you old fucking coot, to say commit to the time frame that we set, considering the time frame that we set passed 3.5 fucking months ago. And are extended to September 1st. Fuck you! Or do we put significantly more troops in? In the interview, Biden also stressed that he's committed to keep a true presence in Afghanistan until every American who wants to get out is safely evacuated. Of course he is. As far as the nation's Afghan allies, Biden made less of a firm commitment. We're going to do everything in our power to get all Americans and our allies out, Biden said. The commitment holds to get everyone out, that in fact that we can get out, and everyone who should come out, and that's the objective. That's what we're doing now. That's the path we're on. Come on, man, and I think we'll get there. There are mounting concerns that Afghans who aided the U.S. and their families are under violent threat from the Taliban if they remain in the country. Biden had made an early promise to withdraw U.S. troops from the country by September 11th, the 20th anniversary of the attacks that prompted the initial U.S. invasion of Afghanistan. By last week, when it became apparent that the speed in which the Taliban were advancing their takeover, Biden authorized sending several thousand troops back into Afghanistan on a temporary mission to help evacuate most of the U.S. embassy in Kabul and Afghan civilians who had supported the U.S. I had a simple choice. If I said, we're going to stay, then we better be prepared to put a whole hell of a lot more troops in, Biden told ABC News. Yeah, that's the kind of rhetoric that says we could be going back to by the end of the year. I'm telling you guys. I am telling you guys, by December, the U.S. could be occupying once again. And it's going to be a much, much bloodier occupation this time because they got all our shit from the last time. All right. Let's listen to what General Milley has to say. There was nothing that I or anyone else saw that indicated a collapse of the Afghan army and this government within 11 days. That's probably a good thing because you probably would have turned back around and said, nope, we're staying here forever. Let's listen to what General Milley has to say.
Previously said from this podium and in sworn testimony before Congress that the intelligence clearly indicated multiple scenarios were possible. One of those was an outright Taliban takeover following a rapid collapse of the Afghan security forces and the government. Another was a civil war, and a third was a negotiated settlement. However, the time frame of a rapid collapse that was widely estimated and ranged from weeks to months and even years following our departure. There was nothing that I or anyone else saw that indicated a collapse of this army and this government in 11 days. Central Command submitted a variety of plans that...
Did he just say government? Is he turning libertarian?
...were briefed and approved by the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the Secretary of Defense, and the President. These plans are coordinated, synchronized, and rehearsed to deal with these various scenarios. One of those contingencies is what we are executing right now. As I said before, there's plenty of time to do AA.
Apparently, by the way, the Trovo isn't coming back through because I can see everything that Ron is saying over here, and it's spicy as shit. Just so you guys know. But it's Ron Helton, so of course it's going to be spicy as shit. Alright, anyway. So, yeah, that's what General Milley has to say. Yeah, we had no indication that this would have fallen in 11 days. We were telling you guys it was going to fall in 90 days. You remember that too? 90 days they were telling us. In 3 months, the Taliban could take over Afghanistan. Surprise! It happened on Sunday. Let's grab one from Insider here. Top U.S. general says he never saw the intelligence that Afghanistan would collapse as fast as it did. From Ryan Pickrell. The top U.S. general said repeatedly on Wednesday that he had not seen any intelligence assessments suggesting that Afghanistan would collapse as quickly as it did. There was nothing that I or anybody else saw that indicated a collapse of this army and government in 11 days, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Mark Milley, said at the Pentagon press briefing. his first time since the Taliban seized control of Kabul. He told reporters that there are no reports that I'm aware of that predicted the security force of 300,000 would evaporate in 11 days from 6 August to 16 August with the capture of 34 provinces in the capital city of Kabul, explaining that no one saw an army of that size falling apart that fast. The intelligence clearly indicated multiple scenarios were possible. One of those was an outright Taliban takeover, following a rapid collapse of the Afghan security forces and the government, Milley explained. Another was a civil war, and the third was a negotiated settlement. Time frame of a rapid collapse, he said. That was widely estimated and ranged from weeks, months, and even years following our departure. The general's comments follow a report in the New York Times, a former newspaper, on Tuesday, stating that classified U.S. intelligence assessments warned that the rapid collapse was a very real possibility, even as the White House said that such a development was unlikely. In early July, President Biden argued for withdrawal negotiated under the previous administration, stating in a press briefing that the likelihood that there's going to be a Taliban overrunning everything and owning the whole country is highly unlikely. Surprise! Last week, as the Taliban carried out a sweeping nationwide offensive, city after city fell to the insurgent forces as the Afghan National Security and Defense Forces the U.S. had been years and billions of dollars training capitulated. A senior intelligence official told Voice of America Wednesday afternoon that U.S. intelligence consistently identified the risk of rapid collapse of the Afghan government, explaining that we also grew more pessimistic about the government's survival as the fighting season progressed. The official acknowledged, though, that the Afghan government unraveled even more quickly than we anticipated. The U.S. military currently has a little over 4,000 troops in Hamid Karzai International Airport in Kabul, where an effort to evacuate U.S. citizens and Afghan partners and their families is currently underway. Is that more than we had to start with? At this administration? Because weren't we drawn down to like 2,500 or less before January 20th? It seems to me that 2,500 seems to be the number that's sticking in my head right now. So we have officially put more troops into Afghanistan, if that's the case. How many troops in Afghanistan? January 2021. Let me see, because I see fact check that says, yeah, Trump dropped it to 2,500. So we have more troops in right now than we did at the beginning of the Biden administration, officially. 1,500 more troops. I mean, given the fact that there were 13,000 at the beginning of the Trump administration, tells me that, I mean, that's, well, it's still a significant number, but still. That, we're going backwards at this point. My God. And yes, there was the distinct possibility, especially, when you start seeing territories fall that quickly, where people, and I'm not even going to say a fall, when you start seeing territories change hands that quickly, where else is the president going to run to? That's the question I have. What else is he going to do? Say, hey, you guys, let's all just be peaceful, and let's all go back and let's make a peaceful government now that all you have aligned with the terrorist cell that we had the U.S. in here holding at bay for 20 fucking years. No, he had no choice yet that matter. And yeah, at that point, as soon as he comes in and says, all right, peace, there's nothing left. So there's that. All right, let's talk about, here's an analysis from Stephen Collinson over at CNN. Biden's presidency is under scrutiny as never before over Afghan chaos. Really? As never before? Stephen Collinson, have you never watched Contemporary? He's been under scrutiny since the day he put his hand on the Bible and said, I promise to uphold the thing, man, and and so help me. Yeah, that guy up there that I'm probably going to meet really soon. God, I hope he likes me. President Biden is struggling against an intensifying examination of his judgment, competence, and even his empathy over the chaotic U.S. exit from Afghanistan, and each attempt the administration makes to quell a furor that's tarnishing America's image only provokes more questions about its failures of planning and execution. A defiant Biden on Wednesday rejected criticism of his leadership as he battled the most significant self-inflicted drama of a term that he won by promising proficient government and to level with voters. I don't think it was a failure, the president said in an interview with George Stephanopoulos of ABC News, referring to a U.S. pullout that sparked scenes of desperate Afghans clinging to and falling to their deaths from U.S. evacuation planes. The president had repeatedly pledged the withdrawal from the country's longest war would be orderly, deliberate, and safe, and that there would be no circumstances that Afghanistan would suddenly fall to the Taliban. But in the ABC News interview, he changed tack, saying that there was no way the U.S. could have left without chaos ensuing, man, come on! And such scenes were always baked into the decision to get all the troops out this year. Biden is failing to adequately explain why he so badly failed to predict the swift collapse of the Afghan state, and his credibility has been sullied because he also sullies his pants, because his confident downplaying of the risk of the withdrawal have been repeatedly confounded by events. 7 months into his term, Biden no longer gets credit simply for not being Donald Trump. You're admitting, Stephen Collinson, you're admitting that you gave him credit for simply not being Donald Trump. The president spoke to ABC News after details emerged from a high-level Pentagon briefing that appeared to confirm the U.S. had never had sufficient troops left in Afghanistan to facilitate the orderly, deliberate withdrawal Biden had promised. So you had to put more troops in to get all the troops out. The deeply awkward session in which Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin and the nation's top military officer, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff General Mark Milley, spoke to reporters also left the grave possibility that the U.S. military would be unable to rescue all American citizens and potential Afghan refugees before it departs for good. Biden's defensiveness, imprecision, and apparent changes of position hardly project a competence or competence during an extraordinarily sensitive crisis on hostile foreign soil. Anytime a commander-in-chief does not appear to control or is in denial of obvious developments as a moment that threatens to inflict political damage. Dude, there are problems out there right now, and there are people that are talking 25th. We'll talk about that in just a second. But this is not good for Democrats. The AOC biscuits, the Ilhan Omars, the progressives, the Bernie Sanders, they have got to be shitting themselves right now because they think that they were going to go on to the coattails of the neoliberal movement. They thought they were going to cling onto those coattails and say, well, the neoliberals are... Okay, Papi, the neoliberals are so popular. We're going to ride on their coattails and we're going to go into a progressive utopia. We're going to end the Republicans because we can ride on their coattails and we can make them to be whatever we want, Papi. And yeah, right now, these neoliberals are not looking all that good. And the progressive politicians, their policies are not good enough to just sell wholesale to the American people on their own. That's why they have to run under the Democrat Party. So this is going to hurt a lot of the progress that they think they've made. And I don't know if MSDNC can cover for them for long enough to keep it. I don't at this point. All right, let's talk about Meghan McCain. The American public deserves an explanation for this. If this is true, President Biden is unfit to lead. What's left of our leadership in D.C. must stop him before more Americans and innocent allies are slaughtered in Afghanistan. We are uniquely at risk, as is our military. Well, that's interesting, Meghan McCain. Tell me, Meghan McCain, who did you vote for this year, this time through? I'm curious. Who did you vote for because you said this was the only way that America could come back up on the track and become a powerhouse on the world stage again? Who exactly did you pull the lever for, Meghan McCain? I'll wait. I'm actually not going to wait because all the dead air would make you guys all leave my channel. But seriously, who did you vote for, Meghan McCain? Wait, not only that. Who did you tell me I was a racist for voting against? Who did you get up on The View and tout as the only person that a person could vote for? That would mean that they weren't a racist, xenophobic bigot, Meghan McCain. I had to get into it. Not directly to, because the woman that I replied to, well, it was a reply down from the woman that I replied to, but the guy that I replied to was replying to a woman who replies almost entirely in subtweets. And the guy says, yeah, I mean, Meghan McCain being on The View and talking about her, I mean, this really is a stain on her father's legacy. And I'm like, what fucking legacy? Are you serious? John McCain was a warhawk fucking pig whose life goal was to kill more Middle Eastern children than HW. What's there to fucking stain? Fuck John McCain. I hope Satan doesn't use the lube on the pitchfork when he sticks it up his ass. From Fox News, China eyeing power grab off chaotic U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan. Yeah, you saw that one coming. From Caitlin McFall. Top foreign policy experts warned Wednesday that China is looking to profit from what critics are calling the U.S. disorganized and inept withdrawal from Afghanistan. This is an opportunity to further their bid to destabilize U.S. alliances, not just in the Indo-Pacific, but in the Middle East, Eric Brown, a senior fellow specializing in Asian and Middle East affairs at the Hudson Institute, told Fox News. Yeah, it's amazing how much this entire thing benefited China. Beijing Biden. Further to that, I think they're also going to use the perception of American unreliability, thanks to the messy and disgraceful withdrawal, to press its influence. It's going to try to take advantage of the situation, he said, referring to the People's Republic of China. China. Chinese state-controlled media have revved up their critical rhetoric surrounding the Taliban's lightning takeover of Afghanistan following the withdrawal of U.S. and NATO forces. The Global Times, a hawkish tabloid supported by the CCP, called the coup a U.S. humiliation and claimed it showed the U.S. cannot win a war anymore. But, nope. Hold on, CCP. Hold on, Global Times. It's not a coup. It's not a coup unless it's full of FBI agents leading Trump supporters into the Capitol, surrounded by little old ladies and guys with 2 cell phones in their hands, trying to document the whole thing. It's only a coup then. It's not a coup in Afghanistan. The daily publication has used its platform to suggest nations like Taiwan cannot expect to receive full backing of the U.S., despite American financial and military assistance awarded to Taipei. China, which contests Taiwan as part of its territory under the One China policy, has engaged in increasing military activity with the U.S. in the South China Sea. U.S. just showed the world that's unable or unwilling to confront a small adversary in Afghanistan with very basic weapons, the Global Times wrote on a Wednesday tweet. So in the future, when it urges its allies to challenge major powers like China and Russia, very few would follow. Just 2 days after Kabul fell to the Taliban, China launched assault drills just off the southern coast of Taiwan with warships and fighter jets. The People's Liberation Army claimed the drills were necessary to protect national sovereignty. But a senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute, Zach Cooper, who studies U.S. strategy in Asia, told Fox News, it is in the Chinese government's interest to try and convince Americans that China is going to press ahead on Taiwan. Yeah, no, they want them entangled. This is the thing, that China wants the U.S. entangled in a military operation at all the time. Because at that point, they go out and they go start buying cheap shit. They get panicked. They dump off their stock market, and the stock market goes into China. The U.S. being in a major military entanglement is good news for China, whether it's with China or not. But now China also has to keep in mind that Japan has pledged, and Japan does have a better naval capability than China does. But Japan has also pledged to protect Taiwan. So there's that going on as well. But it is going to be interesting to see what happens on the old risk board as this goes through. All right. Let's grab. This is not a green check verified source. I was not able to find green check verified sources because this was probably kept very, very tightly under wraps. But I still think that it's important to talk about this here. Team Kamala is quietly shopping the cabinet for 25th Amendment removal of Joe Biden. From J.D. Rucker. Once again, not green check verified. So take this with a grain of salt. Verify it if you can. But find all the facts and draw your own conclusions. Do not take this as gospel. Don't take any of this as gospel for that matter, but especially this one because this doesn't go through the NewsGuard verification source. But I thought it was interesting to at least talk about because, well, I'm going to talk about what this means coming up in a second. We don't make a habit of publishing unconfirmed rumors, but the source of this particular rumor has been rock solid in the past. Unnamed sources, of course. This person who has ties to the DNC rightly informed me that both Amy Klobuchar and Pete Buttigieg would end their campaigns inexplicably before Super Tuesday during last year's Democratic Party. Dude, everybody fucking knew that. Everybody knew that. It wasn't just this source told you this. Everybody who had a modicum of intelligence knew that. The text from the source reads, stay tuned, Team Kamala is quietly visiting cabinet members in person to test the appetite for 25A in light of Taliban Chief of Staff Ron Klain and other Biden loyalists left out, but surprised others seem ready and willing. It could happen next week. Kamala Harris has been conspicuously away from the public eye ever since the Taliban took control of Kabul and the entire nation of Afghanistan. She has distanced herself from the whole debacle and reportedly refused to stand by Joe Biden when he addressed the nation on Monday. For the 25th Amendment to be invoked, a majority of the cabinet would need to vote to remove the president for inability to fulfill his duties of office. With 24 cabinet members, including Harris, her team would need 12 others to join them. Then they would need a supermajority in both the House and Senate to make it stick. Good luck. Good fucking luck, I'm telling you. Senator Rick Scott tweeted about it on Monday. So, once again, They're talking about this, and this is an unconfirmed rumor, and I'm going to tell you this is a completely unconfirmed rumor. But I do want to point out one thing that I've noticed for this. Now, I could be very wrong about this, and I will admit that there's a possibility. But really, honestly, I look at this, and I look at the reason that Biden got in, and like I said, the fact that Amy Klobuchar and Pete Buttigieg both dropped out at the onset of Super Tuesday to align forces behind Biden and put him in tells me that there is a reason that the DNC wanted Biden in, and it's not for his great platitudes of public speaking and his incredible policy prescriptions, or how rock solidly we know that he's going to make it through 2 terms. And really, honestly, from where I'm sitting, I think I have a better chance of being the 47th president of the United States than 46 has a chance of getting the old 2-5. And I'm going to tell you why. It has nothing to do with his performance. I mean, he performs well enough to pass. He's probably one of the worst presidents we've had in our lifetime, but he's shared that office with both W and HW, who were uniquely evil, I might add. And Bill, who chased interns around the fucking desk. Those are some of his predecessors. If he stays in his bunker in fucking Delaware for the rest of his term, he might not be the worst president we've ever had. But also keep in mind that there's something else going on here, and my speculation of it is that it has to do with Hunter. Because it seems that very shortly after that Ukrainian call came out, that seems to be when the entire nation coalesced behind Joe Biden to go push him into the presidency. Which tells me, especially with backroom deals being made, that there are more people with their hands in the cookie jar for the Hunter Biden thing than just Joe. Than just the big guy. Because if it was just Joe, they would have thrown his ass under the bus. And he'd probably be in prison right now, along with his son. That tells me, and this is where I look at this from. Now, if I was Biden, I would definitely not walk in front of Kamala anytime soon. I can tell you that right off the bat. But I don't think he's going to get 25th. I think that he is going to die in that office because he has executive privilege right now. He cannot be questioned about anything on the Hunter thing. Because they'll pull some of the same excuses that people pulled for Trump. That he can't be questioned about X, Y, or Z. I don't think he's going to get 25th. I don't think they're going to hand him the 2-5. They might put a blanket over and put him in the wheelchair and take him out of public view for the rest of the term. But they are not going to hand him the 2-5 until... I mean, that guy is not... From where I'm sitting, from what I can see, from everything that I've analyzed and looked at from the beginning of the primaries on... From where I'm sitting, he's going to leave that office in a casket. Not in a wheelchair. And you can tell me if I'm wrong. But that's with all the facts that I've seen coming out since they started the primary process, since they started pushing him to go run, long before he announced that he was actually going to officially run. That's the way that I see all this happening. But that's what we see from that. From Fox News again, Kamala Harris plans Vietnam visit, just as Afghanistan draws comparisons to fall of Saigon. From Dom Colicchio. The timing probably couldn't be worse for the Biden admin. On Friday, Vice President Harris is scheduled to embark on a trip across the Pacific that will include a stop in Vietnam. Good morning, Vietnam! I've actually never seen that movie, by the way. I know, you're shocked. But with Kamala, it's going to be more like, hey, good morning, Vietnam! The trip, which will be Harris's second outside the U.S. since taking office, comes as the current crisis in Afghanistan has drawn many comparisons to the end of the U.S. involvement in Vietnam in the 70s. This week, scenes of crowds gathering at Kabul's airport and U.S. military helicopters arriving to pick up passengers at the U.S. Embassy in Afghanistan's capital revived grim memories of desperate Vietnamese people trying to board U.S. helicopters as they left the embassy in Saigon more than 4 decades ago. The Vietnam era was among the most divisive periods in American history, with a long conflict factoring into Democratic President Lyndon Johnson's decision not to seek re-election in 1968. The prospect of Harris visiting Vietnam at this particular moment raised the possibility of the worst photo op for an American in that country since Jane Fonda donned the helmet there in 1972. As of Monday, Harris has no plans to cancel her trip, the Washington Post, where democracy goes to die in darkness, reported. The Afghanistan crisis prompted President Biden to shorten his Camp David vacation. He returned to the White House on Tuesday night instead of Wednesday as he had planned. So, yes, with that. In April, Harris told CNN she was the last person in the room when Biden decided to pull U.S. troops from Afghanistan. Let's listen to that.
President Biden always said that he wants you to be the last person in the room, particularly for big decisions, just as he was for President Obama. He just made a really big decision. Afghanistan.
Yes.
Were you the last person in the room?
Yes.
And you feel comfortable?
I do. And I'm going to add to that. This is a president who has an extraordinary amount of courage. He is someone who I have seen over and over again make decisions based on what he truly believes, based on his years of doing this work and studying these issues, what he truly believes is the right thing to do. And I'm going to tell you something about him. He is acutely aware that it may not be politically popular or advantageous for him personally. It's really something to see. And I wish that the American public could see sometimes what I see. Because ultimately, and the decision always rests...
Spoiler alert, what she sees is a gigantic target on the back of Biden. In the bullseye it says, press here to fall. That's what she sees in Biden.
...with him. But I have seen him over and over again make decisions based exactly on what he believes is right, regardless of what maybe the political people tell him is in his best selfish interest.
What do you want to bet her internal monologue is standing there screaming, God, I don't even believe this fucking bullshit. What the fuck? Come on, just die already, you old fucking codger. I want to be president. This is the world we live in. All right, from the New York Post. Where's Kamala? Last person in the room, Harris silent 6 days amid Afghanistan pullout chaos. From Sam Chamberlain. While President Biden and key members of his national security team have borne the brunt of criticism and outrage over the swift fall of Afghanistan and the Taliban, or to the Taliban rather, and the swift fall of Afghanistan and the Taliban. That'll be when China goes and moves in. Oh, no. You want to be allied now? Okay, here, have cigar. We promise it totally will not blow up. Like a fucking Looney Tunes sketch. And the scenes of chaos and carnage as Americans and Afghans attempt to pull out of the country, Vice President Kamala Harris has kept a conspicuously low profile. It's a far cry from April 25th when Harris appeared on CNN's State of the Union and proudly affirmed to host Dana Bash that she had been, as Bash put it, the last person in the room with Biden when he decided to end the U.S. involvement in Afghanistan. Yo, that decision was already made. You could not go back on what the Trump administration brokered without facing severe political backlash at the point that you were there. And do you feel comfortable with Biden's decision? Bash followed up. I do, and I'm going to add that, Harris said. This is a president who has an extraordinary amount of courage. Die, you motherfucker, die, you motherfucker. He is someone who I've seen over and over again make decisions. Please die, you motherfucker. Please die, motherfucker. Please die, motherfucker. Based on what he truly believes. Based on his years of doing this work and studying these issues. Just roll over and die, you fucking old man. And that's what he truly believes is the right thing to do. However, with horrific and tragic images emerging seemingly hours from Afghanistan, Harris has not been seen in public since Thursday, when she cut a meeting short with CEOs to discuss the Biden admin's child care proposals and attend an intelligence briefing as the Taliban began their final offensive. Since then, she's only appeared in still photos put out by the White House. Her only public statements have been on Twitter. She was not by Biden's side, as she has been on other occasions when he attempted to defend his decision to withdraw all U.S. combat forces from Afghanistan in a White House address on Monday. As the situation in Afghanistan deteriorated over the weekend, Harris took part in a Saturday and Sunday video conference with Biden's national security team. Widely mocked images posted on the White House Twitter account show Harris joining the conference from the vice president's official residence and occupying one of several boxes on a screen in front of Biden, who sat alone in a conference room at Camp David, while noting the fact that wasn't actually going on that day because we looked at the fucking clocks. So thank you, New York Post, for still trying to put that fucking propaganda out. So yeah, she is nowhere to be found. He has no idea what's going on. She's waiting for him to die because they can't just 25th him. Let's look at some of the propaganda. Some of the stuff that might take us back into this, starting with Sky News. Where's Matt Kalmark? He loves when I use Sky News. Afghanistan, desperate women throw babies over razor wire at compound asking British soldiers to take them. From Stuart Ramsey. You can hear a noise as you approach the high iron gates that are the only way into the compound that is the center of the British airlift operation out of Afghanistan. On either side of the narrow road inside the walls of the compound at Kabul airport, exhausted British soldiers lie in the shade waiting for their turn to head back outside the burning sun and the chaos once again. The noise is the sound of shouting. It's the noise of desperation. Thousands of people are flooding towards this innocuous place that will, for some, be the getaway to freedom, for many others in the end of the dream of escaping the Taliban. Taliban! After 2 decades, this is what it has come down to: a hasty retreat, a civilian evacuation, with the Taliban watching on. As every day passes, this relief operation gets more and more urgent and desperate as the British military tries to move thousands of people out of Afghanistan in just days. It's a humanitarian mission in what feels like a war zone. Kinda is. A makeshift barricade is all that separates two armies who have fought for 20 years. The Taliban are just 1 meter away from the British shoulders. It's a picture I never thought that I would see. We've watched as thousands converged onto this base, threatening to overwhelm the whole evacuation operation. The Taliban have assisted us in this. Up the road, they are controlling the crowds of people trying to reach the British position. Sometimes they fire into the air, making people stop. They are a menacing presence. Day and night, families, often with tiny children, have risked their lives ducking past gunfire at the gates of the civilian side of the airport, passing aggressive Taliban fighters who occasionally beat and harass them. In the night, the paratroopers blockaded the road with cars and razor wire. A senior officer told me they had no choice because the situation was out of control, but they said the blockade will live with some of his soldiers for the rest of their lives. It was terrible. Women were throwing their babies over the razor wire, asking the soldiers to take them. Some got caught in the wire, he told me. Oof. You hate to see it. I'm worried for my men. I'm counseling some. Everyone cried last night. Why is there razor wire on top of the truck? It looks like chaos, but there is a method. The soldiers call out for interpreters as different nationalities arrive at the barricade, including Afghans with a valid asylum case. Passports and paperwork are then checked. If they pass muster, they're directed to the entry gate to be processed. Some make it, others don't. The soldiers hate this, but without the right paperwork, they have to turn people away. Terrified families, men, women, and large numbers of children are sent back through the barbed wire. So, and this is, unfortunately, this is some of the propaganda that's going to be put out there to make it seem like the UN and the United States and NATO all need to come in and do something. Come in, just please, and occupy the area again. We can't do this again. And I do feel for the people who are tossing the babies over this, but this is the heartstrings ploy that we need to watch for. And watch our leaders for, too. So, I don't know what the answer is. I don't. But I know the answer is not to go back and occupy the palace again. That's going to arguably make everything worse. All right, from the Dissociated Press, some more propaganda for you. Supposed photo of Afghan women is fake. Original from Iraq was altered to add chains. From Arizheta Lashka. Claim. A photo shows 3 Afghan women chained to one another walking behind a man who holds the end of the chain. AP's assessment. False. This photo was manipulated, and the chains were added. Photographer Murat Duzyol told the Dissociated Press he took the original photo in Erbil, Iraq in February of 2003. The facts. After the Taliban seized power in Afghanistan on Sunday, false posts began to emerge regarding the experience of women in the country. Oh, I'm sure it's still not great. Twitter users posted a manipulated photo, and suggested that it showed women in Afghanistan walking behind a man. In the edited photo, chains were digitally added onto the ankles of the women, with a man holding the chain. There was no chain in the original photo. Also, it was taken in Iraq, not Afghanistan. Hashtag Afghan women, God protect women and children, because an institution like the UN has become impotent, said a Twitter user who tweeted the photo. Over the years, the photo has been misrepresented and posted multiple times. One blog falsely stated the photo was taken in Afghanistan and said it showed an example of women walking about 5 paces behind their husbands. Duzyol, who lives in Istanbul, which used to be Constantinople, told AP that he took the photo in 2003. During that time, he often visited Iraq and took photos. The day the photo was taken, he said there was a ceremony commemorating Iraqi civilians who were killed in the city of Erbil, he said. And once again, yes. Do we get to see the doctored photo? No, we don't. So we don't get to see the doctored photo, but I mean, yeah, there's another piece of the propaganda. And I mean, this is a photo that's been propaganda numerous times. This is not one that's new. I mean, it's almost 20 years old at this point. It's almost as old as the Afghanistan war. But regardless, they want to tug at your heartstrings. They want to go back there. Your Dan Crenshaws, your people who suck the dick of Dan Crenshaw, your Ben Shapiros, your Steven Crowders, even hell, your Bidens and your Pelosi's. They want to go back there. They want to be there forever. They want to be there. And we need to push back on it. All right, from Reuters. Taliban urges Afghans to leave Kabul airport after days of deadly chaos. No author given. The Taliban on Thursday urged crowds of Afghans waiting outside Kabul airport in the hopes of fleeing the country to go home, saying they don't want to hurt anyone, a day after Taliban fighters fired at protesters, killing 3, witnesses said. The U.S. and other Western powers pressed on with the evacuation of their nationals and some other Afghan staff from the airport on Afghanistan's Independence Day, which could trigger more protests against the Islamists. While Kabul has generally been calm since the Taliban forces entered on Sunday, after a week of stunning advances across the country, the airport has been in chaos as people rushed for a way out of Afghanistan capital. 12 people have been killed in and around the airport since Sunday, and a NATO and Taliban official said the deaths were caused by either gunshots or by stampedes, the Taliban official said. He urged people who do not have the legal right to travel to go home. We don't want to hurt anyone at the airport, said the Taliban official, who declined to be identified. About 8,000 people have been flown out since Sunday, a Western security official said. The U.S. military is in charge of the airport while the Taliban fighters patrol outside of its walled and fenced perimeter. So, I mean, yeah, no, they're not even letting them get out of the country. Why can't they run away? We have to go back in. I do hope that these people get out. I do. But I still look back at this and say, can we really go back in and stay there forever and ever? Amen. Can we justify another 40-year occupation of Afghanistan because of this? Because that's what the globalists and the neocons want. All right, the last one. The last one! Another piece of propaganda to keep us in Afghanistan forever. This coming from CNN Business. The Taliban are sitting on $1 trillion worth of materials the world desperately needs. And it's not Poppy. From Julia Horowitz. The swift fall of Afghanistan to Taliban fighters has triggered a humanitarian crisis with thousands trying to flee the country. It's also brought renewed focus on Afghanistan's vast untapped mineral wealth, resources that could transform its economic prospects if ever developed. Afghanistan is one of the poorest nations in the world, but in 2010, U.S. military officials and geologists revealed the country, which lies at the crossroads of Central and South Asia, was sitting on mineral deposits worth nearly $1 trillion. Supplies of minerals such as iron, copper, and gold are scattered across the provinces. There are also rare earth minerals and perhaps most importantly, what could be one of the world's biggest deposits of lithium, an essential but scarce component in rechargeable batteries and other technologies vital to tackling the climate crisis. There it is. There it is. It's not oil anymore. That makes the United States Army feel the need to sit in there forever and ever. Now it's rare earth minerals, stuff for batteries, that they're going to mine using oil. Afghanistan is certainly one of the richest regions richest in traditional precious metals, but also in metals needed for the emerging economy of the 21st century, said Raj Schunover, a scientist and security expert who founded the Ecological Futures Group. Security challenges, a lack of infrastructure, and severe droughts have prevented the extraction of most valuable materials in the past. That's unlikely to change sooner under Taliban control. Still, there's interest from countries, including China, Pakistan, and India, which may try to engage despite the chaos. It's a big question mark, Schoonover said. Even before President Biden announced he would withdraw U.S. troops from Afghanistan earlier this year, setting the stage for the return of Taliban control, the country's economic prospects were dim. As of 2020, an estimated 90% of Afghans were living below a government-determined poverty level of $2 a day, according to a report from U.S. Congressional Research Service published in June in its latest country profile. The World Bank said the economy remains shaped by fragility and aid dependence. Private sector development and diversification, which is constrained by insecurity, political instability, weak institutions, inadequate infrastructure. It's the roads, man. I hate the fucking roads. Widespread corruption and difficult business environment, it said in March. So there it is. We're going to stay there forever because they've got the resources. We want the resources. Give us the resources. And hey, we might just go down the follow-up path in and of itself. You know, go in, have a world war, have the resource wars, and then have China nuke the world off the fucking face of the planet. I guess we'll see what happens with that. And with that, we have spent over an hour talking about Afghanistan. Because we started at 19 minutes. Unfortunately, we spent almost an hour on this. On all this bullshit. Over an hour, I'm sorry. 1 hour, 2 minutes talking about Afghanistan. Let's get into the other stuff. All right. From the New York Post. A year's supply of free meat is the latest COVID-19 vaccine bribe. Apparently this is what pushed Right Girl Problems over the edge, and now she's going to go try to get the vaccine because, you know, it's a year's supply of meat. No, it isn't, because she doesn't live in Utah. Where's the beef? In the hands of Utah's vaccinated population. JBS Foods is offering 5 pounds of free ground beef along with an entry to win a full year's supply of free meat. I gotta push back on this. Is this your definition of a year's supply or mine? Because that's going to be 2 different measurements, I'm telling you. To any person who shows up to get jabbed at either the city of Hiram's 2 COVID-19 vaccination sites, according to KUTV. Utah is working with the Bear River Health Department and the beef processing plant in Hiram to launch the campaign, Your Shots at Free Meat for a Year. Apart from the Free Beef Initiative, one winner from each vaccination site will receive a year's worth of beef, pork, and poultry for a family of 4. Once again, is that your definition or mine? Every COVID-19 vaccine received will help keep our team members and our community safe and healthy, said JBS Hiram plant manager Darren Olson in a statement. This sweepstakes is a great incentive to encourage everyone to come out and do their part to put an end to the pandemic. You dumb bastards. It's endemic. You're not putting an end to it, and the Delta and Lambda variants get around the vaccine. The push comes as JBS seeks to see at least 5% more Utah staffers inoculated, bringing their rate up to 70%, on par with the company's overall workforce of 66,000 employees across their 84 U.S. factories. From private companies to government agencies and universities, many local leaders have resorted to various incentives as a way to encourage the vaccine uptake among the nation's hesitant. Mayor Bill de Blasio is offering $100 to shot recipients at some of New York's vaccination sites after Shake Shack fries and Brooklyn Nets tickets failed to lure enough residents. Meanwhile, disgraced Governor Andrew Cuomo of New York hoped a free $5 million scratch-off would work to get needles in arms. What's better than a free $100? Tack on another zero, said investment firm Vanguard, whose 17,300 employees could earn $1,000 for getting the jab. Sweepstakes and lotteries have also been popular tactic in Ohio, where 10 recently inoculated winners received $1 million jackpots, or at Virginia-based IT firm Leibt, who gave 10 randomly selected employees a year's salary for getting their shots. Auburn University in Alabama is doling out prizes to help recently vaccinated students make a return to on-campus learning, including $1,000 scholarships, meal plans, and parking passes. Why are they so desperate to get this shot in everybody's arms? I will never understand. I will never understand why this is such a desperation to everybody, but somehow it is a desperation to everybody to get the shot in everybody's arms. This one was interesting. CNN Health, about 99.999% of fully vaccinated Americans have not had a deadly COVID-19 breakthrough case. CDC data shows, from Deirdre McPhillips and Christina Maxoris. It's the linguistics about this. It's the linguistics. They worded this headline in a certain way. About 99.999% of fully vaccinated Americans have not had a deadly COVID-19 breakthrough case. CDC data shows. Let me read a little bit of this and I'm going to push back. More than 99.99% of people fully vaccinated against COVID-19 have had a breakthrough case resulting in hospitalization or death, according to the latest data from the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. The data highlights what leading health experts across the country have highlighted for months. COVID-19 vaccines are very effective at preventing serious illness and death from COVID-19 and are the country's best shot at slowing the pandemic down and avoiding further suffering. The CDC reported 6,587 COVID-19 breakthrough cases as of July 26, which is totally not cooked, by the way, including 6,239 hospitalizations and 1,263 deaths. At the time, more than 163 million people in the U.S. were fully vaccinated against the pinko fucking pox. Okay, that's all well and good, right? Are you ready? And I had somebody bring this up and actually give me a stat. Let me go see if I can find the stat quick over on my Twitter notifications. Somebody actually gave me the chart, which was handy. And it comes from the New York Times, a former newspaper, of course. Let's drag this over here and let's talk about this. So, I pointed out, when I talked about this, that about 99.99% of unvaccinated people have not had a deadly COVID case. In fact, about 99.98% of people who have had the pinko fucking pox have not had a deadly COVID case. And peace be upon Mike D, God bless Mike D, for coming out with a chart that says, but they spread it all the time. Also, that's about the average recovery rate for a large percentage. 0 to 4, 99.7%. I mean, the mean, 99.7%. This goes up. 99.9, 99.9, 99.7. Survival rates are in the 99 range. Now, yeah, once you get up to 60 to 80 years old, then yeah, your survival rate drops, my God, all the way down to 91.708%. Or 89.175% if you're a male. I'm sorry, and I know that it sucks that some people have died from this, or with this. I know that that blows. But what's the percentage got to be for us to actually stop society? Because it's not 91%. It's not 99%. I agreed with 2 weeks to slow the spread back when we didn't know what this was. But over a year later, almost a year and a half later, when we know what this is, no, there's no need for 2 weeks to slow the spread anymore. This is what this is. 99% plus survival rate. Almost 100% survival rate on this thing. But let's go lock ourselves in our home for another day. Let me park that back over here. All right, some Biden news here for you. From Fox News, Biden pushes for vaccine booster shots starting in September. From Michael Lee. President Biden announced a plan to offer COVID-19 vaccine booster shots beginning in the week of September 20th. The plan is for every adult to get a booster shot 8 months after you get your second shot, Biden said during a COVID briefing on Wednesday, as the big pharma companies started rubbing their hands together and say, yes, the government's going to pay for this. We can inflate our prices to whatever we want them to be because the government's going to pay for it. Yes. We'll be ready to start this booster program during the week of September 20th, Biden continued. The announcement comes as speculation has intensified in recent days that the White House was going to start pushing for booster shots for vaccinated Americans as the highly transmissible Delta variant spreads across the country. The data we've seen suggests a third dose of our vaccine elicits antibody levels that significantly exceed those seen after the 2-dose primary schedule, man. Come on. And we're pleased to submit these data from the FDA as we continue working together to address the evolving challenges of this pandemic. Oh, wait, that wasn't Biden. That was Albert Bourla. Biden said the Americans should get a booster shot 8 months after receiving their second dose. Biden also took aim at governors who have moved to block mask mandates in their states, threatening to pursue legal action through the Department of Education. We'll talk about that in just a second. So we'll skip over this. But yes, the new plan now, he came back from Camp David to go back and talk to the American people, and he completely ignored the fact that he failed in Afghanistan and went straight to vaccine booster. All right, from CNBC. U.S. will begin wide distribution of COVID booster shots next month, saying vaccine protection wanes over time. From Berkeley Loveless Jr. The U.S. will begin widely distributing COVID-19 booster shots next month as new data shows the vaccine protection wanes over time, top U.S. health officials announced on Wednesday. Weird! It's so weird. When we started talking about mandates, some of us actually said this could be happening. Weird. Now they have an excuse to go have the government pay Pfizer a buttload more fucking money. Weird. A buttload more taxpayer money for a vaccine that totally works. Don't kick me off YouTube, Susan. It is now very clear that immunity starts to fall after the initial 2 doses, and with the dominance of the Delta variant, we're starting to see evidence of reduced protection against mild and moderate diseases, according to the statement signed by CDC Director Dr. Rochelle Walensky, Acting FDA Commissioner Dr. Janet Woodcock, White House Chief Medical Advisor Dr. Anthony Fauci, hallowed be his name, the patron saint of medicine, and other U.S. health leaders. But we didn't say Fauci says. By the way, you notice that the vaccine cards, by the way, had 4 or 5 slots in them? And you only got 2 doses? Did anybody notice that other than me? When we started looking at these stupid vaccine cards? That you should never ever make a fake one of? Is this Fauci? Is this Fauci voice? No, it's not Fauci voice. Based on a latest assessment, the current protection against severe disease hospitalization and death could diminish in the months ahead, especially among those who are at higher risk or were vaccinated during the earlier phases of the vaccine rollout. As a result, U.S. agencies are preparing to offer booster shots to all eligible Americans beginning the week of September 20th, starting 8 months after their second dose of Pfizer or Moderna's vaccines, officials said. While they said recipients of Johnson & Johnson's single-shot vaccine will likely need boosters, they're awaiting more data in the next few weeks before making a formal recommendation. With those data in hand, we will keep the public informed with a timely plan for the J&J booster shots as well, the official said. Surprise! This vaccine shit isn't over yet. And yes, now we get to hear more people come out and virtue signal. We got our vaccine! We got our vaccine! Yay, we got our vaccine! Look at my Instagram! Look at my vaccine card! I'm vaccinated! As if we didn't see enough of that stupid shit. From Politico, troubling CDC vaccine data convinced Biden team to back booster shots. From Adam Cancerin, Aaron Benko, and Sarah Obermole. Top Biden admin health officials concluded that most Americans will soon need a coronavirus booster shot after reviewing a raft of new data from the Centers for Disease Control that showed a worrying drop in vaccine efficacy over time, 4 admin officials told Politico. The evidence compiled by federal scientists over the past several months showed a decline in the initial round of protection against COVID-19 infection that's coincided with a resurgence in cases driven by the more contagious Delta variant. The data looked at the vaccine effectiveness in individuals across age groups with varying medical conditions who received the shot at different times. It was presented to the White House task force officials at a meeting on Sunday. This is what moved the needle, one senior administration official said, describing the CDC data and the decision to urge boosters. That data, which is set to be made public later this week, brought a swift end to the debate over whether the administration boosters that has raged within the administration for months spurred the build-out of a plan for distributing the additional shots in a matter of weeks. Why did my camera turn off, I wonder? I don't know, let's turn it back on. The Biden admin is now expected to formally announce its strategy within days following a series of meetings throughout the weekend focused on concerns that Americans' immunity against COVID-19 was not only fading, but dropping faster than anticipated in the face of the Delta variant. The extended forever game of Fauci says. Fauci says hop up and down on one leg. That's the only way you can be immune. Fauci says wear your shirt over your eyes. It's the only way you can be immune. Oh, you better reach your arm over the top of your head. Oh, I didn't say Fauci says. You're out. I swear to God, that's what this is becoming at this point. From regular NBC. Oh, we got to refresh it. Come on. Come on, you. There we go. Continue without supporting this time. As U.S. promotes booster shots against COVID, moral questions arise over vaccine equity. Equality of outcome. That's going to be the next thing coming back up off of this. From Eric Ortiz. The announcement Wednesday by top U.S. health officials that the booster shots against COVID-19 will be offered to all Americans beginning next month has spurred renewed criticism about existing vaccine inequities and fears that the world's poorer nations will remain unprepared for new and potentially deadlier variants of the coronavirus. As the Biden admin formally released its plan, officials and scientists within the World Health Organization and other international public health experts forcefully pushed back at it as immoral and unconscionable. We're planning on to hand out extra life jackets to people who already have life jackets, while we're leaving other people to drown without a single life jacket, said Dr. Michael Ryan, the emergency's chief at WHO, told reporters. Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, the Director General of the WHO, wrote in Time magazine last week that the Public Health Agency supported a global moratorium on COVID-19 booster shots through at least the end of September so that the vaccine supplies could be redirected toward immunizing at least 10% of the population of every country. While federal health data shows that half the U.S. population is fully vaccinated against the pinko fucking pox, global health trackers estimate that only 24% of the world's population is also fully inoculated, with just 1.3% of the people in low-income countries having received at least one dose. You know, I was told 6 months ago that we had enough vaccines for everybody, and you shouldn't hesitate and wait to go get your vaccine until other people get it for vaccine equity purposes, because we have enough for everybody in the world to get all their doses of the vaccine. That's what I was told by the mainstream media. And now we have to wait on booster shots because only 24% of the world might be inoculated. Oh no! They just change the narrative whenever it doesn't fit their next humanitarian panic fucking crisis. They are milking the shit out of this pandemic for as much as they can get out of it. And I still have questions, except the vaccines totally work and nothing is bad about them. Susan, don't ban me. I didn't say it. Don't ban me. All right, from News 4 Jacksonville. From Nick Jones and Stacey Spanos, Biden tells Education Secretary to take on governors blocking masks in schools. The Associated Press contributed to this report. During a Wednesday afternoon news conference on the COVID-19 crisis in America, President Biden said he's directing the Secretary of Education to take action against governors who attempt to block school mask mandates. I'm directing the Secretary of Education to take additional steps to protect our children, Biden said during the news conference. This includes using all the oversight authorities and legal action, if appropriate, against the governors who are trying to block and intimidate school, local officials, and educators. The president said he has spoken with county school superintendents in states, including Florida, who have gone forward with imposing mask requirements in the classroom. Last week, I called school superintendents from Florida and Arizona to thank them for doing the right thing and requiring masks in their schools. One of them said, "We teach science, so we follow the science." Yet religion is not supposed to be allowed in schools, according to the people on the left who only know one part of the First Amendment that doesn't actually exist. The separation of church and state! Well, what happens when the state becomes the church? As it has to many of these people on the left at this point. They broke in to the Mecca of our democracy. They stormed the Capitol. The government is their church. Biden further said some politicians are trying to turn public safety measures into political disputes for their own political gain. He stated that some have used intimidation and threats, which he called unacceptable. In an announcement on the website, the Education Department said policies ban mask mandates could amount to discrimination if they lead to unsafe conditions that prevent students from attending school. The agency can launch its own investigations into potential violations. Oh, you say conditions that would lead children from attending school? You mean like a nationwide lockdown and Zoom school everywhere? Is that what you mean? Which I knew that wasn't going to last. I'm actually a little surprised it made it as far into the last school year as it did, because they need to have those ass and seats away from their parents so they can indoctrinate them into whatever they want, where the parents can't see it. The department has the authority to investigate any state educational agency whose policies or actions may infringe on the rights of every student to access public education equally, Cardona said in a statement. That wasn't Biden. He added that states banning mask mandates are needlessly placing students, families, and educators at risk. Then close your school. No, I'm serious. If it's that big of a risk in your district, then close your school. Send everybody back home to do Zoom classes again, if it's that big of a risk. If it is such a major risk that the kids can't even get out of the house without a mask on, because if they step 7 inches outside of their house without a mask on, they'll drop dead from airborne Ebola, then close your school. Because I'm telling you right now, the kids are not going to want to put the mask on. In fact, the majority of them are going to make fun of you for it. They'll fling their masks across the room. You know, one on the thumb, the other end off of their... Bing! They'll do that shit. They'll write absurd and obscene messages on the masks. Have you been to a public school? I realize that most of you people in the government, your kids go to private schools. But have you been to a public school? Seriously? They believe their own bullshit too. I firmly believe that. All right, let's talk about Washington State. From Axios, Washington State announces strictest school vaccine mandate in the U.S. We might not get through everything, you guys. I just looked at the clock. We might not get to these last ones here. But we still got to do thing I like and thing that I hate. Washington State announces strictest school vaccine mandate in the U.S. All Washington State teachers and school staff must be fully vaccinated against the pinko pox under a new employment condition announced by Governor Jay Inslee on Wednesday. The requirement that includes schools, bus drivers, and volunteers in the public and private sectors marks the strictest vaccine mandate for schools in the U.S. Staff have to be vaccinated by October 18th or face the threat of being fired. Good luck with that, because your private schools aren't going to do that shit. Washington State is experiencing surging coronavirus case numbers and hospitalization. Inslee noted at a news conference Wednesday that 95% of coronavirus patients hospitalized in the state were unvaccinated. I'd love to see the numbers on those books. Inslee also announced on Wednesday that he's expanding the statewide mask mandate for indoor public spaces to include everyone regardless of their COVID-19 vaccination status. The Democratic governor this month imposed a vaccine mandate for most state employees and healthcare workers. This is a legally binding document, Inslee said of his order, mandating all K-12 employees get vaccinated. Oh, good. Go be the tyrant. Go be the tyrant. Ask Newsom what happens when you just want to put the power down. Ask Whitmer what happens. Ask fucking Evers what happens when you just want to put the power down and not have a plan. All right. But yes, all these Democrat governors, Cuomo, as he's on his way out the door, which that should have been 2 days ago at this point that he's out. So we haven't heard a story about the transfer of power out of New York. Let me actually notate that for tomorrow. All right, well, we'll look into that. I've got a note for it to know what to look for, but yeah, I want to talk about what happened with that because it's been 14 days, all right? No, it's only been 7 days. Never mind. My weeks are off because everything's running the fuck together. Never mind, we're not going to cover that tomorrow. We'll cover that next week. But yes, all these governors are out there. They're competing to be who can be the most tyrannical governor in the world at this point. That's what the competition is. How can I be more tyrannical than my next guy? Because otherwise, he might get the credit for being the most progressive politician ever. If you want to get the vaccine, get the vaccine. If you don't, watch The Price is Right. That's been my stance on this since the beginning. I can't tell you what to do. I ain't your mama. I can't tell you what to do. You, your doctor, sit down and make the decision that's best for you. And not the government, not your employer, not anybody else has any say in that decision. But they're going to come out and say, well, we're trying. If you don't get the vaccine, you're not being protective against your fellow man. Won't you think about your fellow man? Man? All right. That is it for the day. We do have to get on here because Steven is getting ready to go live. And I also want to make sure he goes uninhibited. But before we get out of here for the day, we do have to do a thing that I like and a thing that I hate and head on out of here. We will pick up tomorrow on Matt Walsh's speech to the Nashville School Board that caused Carrie Underwood to give him a like. But before we head out of here, we're going to do a thing that I like and a thing that I hate. So, thing that I like today. So you'll remember this batshit fucking cunt. If you don't remember this batshit cunt, let's drop the the music here, and let's have a listen to what it was that she had to say one more time.
Story time. This has been my first year in preschool with a class of my own, teaching alongside another queer neurodivergent educator, and we have been rocking our twos class. We've been talking about gender and skin color and consent and empathy and our bodies and autonomy. It's been fabulous. But our teaching team is shifting and a new person is being onboarded, someone with many years of experience. So today at the lunch table, when the topic of gender and genitals came up, one of our students plainly looked up and said, "Well, I'm a girl today, but I know that teacher Co isn't. No, they're NB." And the look on the incoming teacher's face was priceless. She was shocked in a good way, and she just looked around at the two of us and said, "This class is incredible, and I am so impressed."
All right, so that's what that batshit cunt had to say. And there's some more tweets that went along with this. The quartering, which is what we're going to go from off of this, pointed out, holy shit, this teacher tweeted this. Hashtag legal peeps, what kind of waiver release would I need to create safe space to talk to youth about? Hashtag kink away from their parents. Hashtag sex ed. And, then the Instagram, first book, This Heart Holds, many available wherever books are sold. I actually didn't, and she works at a Jewish school on top of it, Valkyrie Jacobson Smith. Oh, she's in California. See, I was looking through mass stuff yesterday because when I found out about what the courting is, Jeremy from the Quartering is about to talk about here. I thought, because I saw a picture of this same batshit chick dancing at a Salem witch festival, I thought she was at mass. And I was looking through various mass news outlets trying to find this bitch. But no, apparently she's working at a congregation Emmanuel in San Francisco, which actually explains a lot of this, I'm not going to lie. But let's listen briefly to the quartering about what happened here and what's happened on the next step.
Incredible, and I am so impressed.
Are you teaching preschool to teach kids or to impress other people? Oh, and it gets worse. The very same teacher asks, legal friends, what kind of waiver release would I need to create a safe space to talk to youth?
All right, so we'll skip ahead.
Could you imagine your kid's Instagram working at a department on my Patreon? Works at a school that is just as crazy as she is. Oh, okay. Well, they don't care. Update, I had someone call, and before he even finished the sentence, the woman who answered said she doesn't work here anymore and she never taught that curriculum. She was unaware that this teacher stopped working there. She was unaware of when. Her LinkedIn still says she worked there. So she got fired.
So, and with that, I did go, because I was actually looking for a news article because this got so high profile, as far as this woman getting fired, because I thought there would be news about it. Like I said, I was looking through mass local stuff, but apparently the school's in California. I didn't see that off of this. But I did look on other stuff. The woman's name is Valkyrie Jacobson Smith. Her LinkedIn has been scrubbed at this point. Between the time that Jeremy made this video and now, the LinkedIn has been scrubbed. It's gone. It doesn't exist. Like, you can look it up and says this user doesn't exist. Valkyrie JS doesn't exist. So she scrubbed that. Her Twitter is privated. I went to go look for that as well. So yeah, this is now, I am not a cancel culture person by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, I hate the fact that under most circumstances, people can run out and call your employer if you have a wrong think idea on the right. And for the most part, if the person who calls your employer says, "Oh yeah, that guy's a racist," you're out the fucking door. I hate that. And if this woman worked at like the Publix or the local McDonald's or an Italian restaurant somewhere, some fine dining, or she tended bar, or she was even working on the line at a factory somewhere, I would be completely against. Or, filing papers as a secretary of something. I would be completely against a flood of people going in and saying, okay, Valkyrie said something vaguely pedophilic on Instagram or Twitter or TikTok or whatever it was. I would be totally against the cancel mob going to get her out of those kinds of jobs. But these are kids. Now, I didn't understand the video at first either. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I didn't understand the video at all. I thought she was just sitting on lunch break because I've never understood. I've never seen, well, we didn't have preschool when I was a kid, but I've never seen preschool teachers sit down with their kids at the lunch table to have the discussion. So it didn't dawn on me until I watched the quartering video here that no, she was sitting here at the lunch table with the kids having this conversation, excited about the fact that she had taught a kid that one of their other teachers is non-binary. And I'm pretty sure the other teacher is probably gone too at this point. But yeah, that's it. It's the kids. I have less of a... In fact, I like the fact that she lost her job over this because of the kids. Like I say, if she was filing papers for some business magnate in San Francisco or some Silicon Valley company, I would say, no, don't call her. Don't take away her livelihood. Call her stupid online. Remind her that her ideas are fucking stupid. But because of the kids thing, this is grooming. This is not just your run-of-the-mill, I'm non-binary and I have to spread my message. This is fucking grooming. So yes, Godspeed. I hope you do well in your endeavor to get better employment in the future. Just stay the fuck away from the kids. Lest the day of the wood chipper come. Disavow. I disavow myself on that. All right, and now for a thing that I hate. Where's my music? All right, from the New York Post. CNN's Jeffrey Toobin ripped over column arguing against prosecuting Trump. What the fuck? Seriously? All right, from Alexandra Steingrad. CNN legal analyst Jeffrey Toobin is facing backlash on social media over a column urging Attorney General Merrick Garland not to seek criminal persecution of former President Trump. And I said persecution on purpose because that is what the mainstream media want. That's why I hate this fucking thing. It's not the fact that he wrote the article. It's the reaction to it here. Toobin, who got fired from The New Yorker last year for masturbating on a Zoom call, but was reinstated by CNN after a brief leave of absence, argued that while Trump's conduct in office was disgraceful and wrong, there was also a lack of sufficient evidence for the Attorney General to pursue any criminal charges against the former president. Investigations of presidential wrongdoing by Congress and others are wise and even necessary, Toobin concluded, while he was, Toobin. But actual prosecutions are not, and Donald Trump should be the beneficiary of this tradition, even if he himself surely not offer such grace to others. Really? Really, Jeffrey? Let me ask you something. Did he lock her up? Yeah, he did look through some of the files and some of the phone records of some people at CNN and various other publications. We can have an argument about that, sure. If there was national security implication to that, I'm sure that the Attorney General would be very happy to have this argument and explain why he doesn't feel the need to prosecute for that. But I don't know what's in those records because they didn't get to the rest of us. But did he lock her up? Is this actually grace that he would not give to other people? Tell me, is Hillary Clinton in jail right now? Because I think you need to eat your words on this. But, of course, now this didn't sell with the left-leaning talking heads who called for a boycott of Toobin on Twitter, even as they spun theories about the legal analyst's motives. Many accused Toobin of mounting a cheap publicity stunt as he argued that there wasn't enough evidence to bring a case against Trump over his efforts to overturn the 2020 election. The Palmer Report, who has me blocked on Twitter, by the way, a liberal political blog, accused Toobin of writing the headline-grabbing column in a ploy to keep his gig at CNN in the wake of the masturbation scandal. No, here's what's going on here, and this is the reason that I hate this. It has nothing to do with the fact that Toobin thinks that he shouldn't be prosecuted. He shouldn't. Because it would be impossible for a DOJ to go back after somebody specifically over something that happened in office without having it look with the appearance of a political witch hunt, which is what most of this is. There is nothing criminal about anything that happened there. And I challenge you to show me something criminal that he did. But I mean, what happened? I mean, the tax thing. Oh, well, they went after the chief financial officer, who was probably embezzling off the top from Trump forever. Have you heard about that for a while, by the way? Have you heard anything about that story? Because I haven't. That story disappeared in a hurry once they found out that they couldn't bring charges against Trump. No, these left-wing talking heads like the fucking Palmer Report. Thank you, by the way, New York Post, for putting that up there, because I can't see their shit on Twitter anymore. Like the Palmer Report, they are only concerned about getting a prosecution out there and screaming and screeching about it because we need to persecute Donald Trump because he took the rightful presidency away from Hillary Clinton. He upset the norms. He said mean things on Twitter. He won. Against everything they had set up out there, he won. That's why they think he needs to be persecuted and prosecuted. Not for anything he actually did while he was in the office. And they're going to continue to hold this line forever. I don't think a person who's been twice impeached should be allowed to run again. Why? You couldn't prosecute him. All right, and that is it for the day. Let's change up the track and let's head out of here. All right, where's my outro track here? Where's my solo? There it is. All right, so we're going to head out of here for the day, and I urge everybody, even though you can't go see him on Twitch anymore because of the certain mafia that made the raid on him, I still urge you to go over and check out DLive and YouTube, and go check out my friend Steven Ignoramus, who I'm going to be going and checking out as well. Otherwise, we will be back here tomorrow with the last few articles we have over here, including the Matt Walsh speech here. We'll be back here tomorrow with all of that, plus I'm sure a lot more because, hey, we're coming into 25th Amendment territory. Probably not. And we've got a lot to talk about, so definitely come back and check us out here tomorrow for more contemporary. And also check out Across the Board, which I have, I think, 3 confirmed people for Across the Board coming up later on Saturday. So come and check that out as well. We'll have a good talk about the infrastructure bill and what that means for the American people, especially since it's been completely ignored since the Afghanistan thing. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. So definitely looking forward to seeing you guys come up here. Let's see if we can get one right-wing male to come on and be our 4th over on that program as well. So we will see you tomorrow for more contemporary. Until then, I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.